Hey Pete, what are you doing down there?
Well, I'm searching for bald eagles. Nick, did you know that the upper Mississippi River Valley is one of the greatest concentration of bald eagles anywhere in the world? Well, now you do. Well, guess what, everyone? It's April. Not only is it the cruelest month, it tends to be the coldest at times when you're by the river, but enough of that. It's the Cellar series, and here's your Cellar series description. You know, it's gonna warm up. The sun feels amazing. This view is amazing. We're right at the summit monuments. I'm sure many of you have been down here before. But we've got 6 amazing wines that really kind of like in a slingshot us into spring. And I'm super excited to talk to you about them. So let's kind of just jump right in. You know, there's 20% off as always. It's about $157. You know, it's a kind of par for the course, but man, we've got some classics in here. You know, we've got Chablis right here. We've, you know, kind of working into a really, really unique area, very, very small production zone, right along the French-Luxembourg border right here. California Rosé, Sancerre Rouge, Barbaresco, California Syrah. It's a pretty awesome selection. A couple of these would be amazing for the holiday, you know, Easter holiday, Passover holiday, kind of coming up. But let's jump in. So you might know that I'm kind of a fan of white Burgundy. Maybe not as much as our white Burgundy expert, who is Fitty. But I love Chablis, and I love kind of featuring it in these kind of spring, summer features. So this is, you know, Drouhin, Vaudan. And so this is the, you know, Maison Joseph Drouhin, kind of the family that does Domaine Drouhin Oregon. You know, maybe more importantly and much more famously, you know, the Joseph Drouhin, you know, out of Beaune and Burgundy. But they also have had a long kind of stake in Chablis. You know, so this is their blend at a few different sites, you know, kind of, and all organic, really lovely, kind of crisp mineral white. It spends about 6 to 8 months on the lees, you know, which, if you're not going to age something in an oak barrel, or if you're not going to kind of like, you know, have a more oxidative environment for that wine to kind of grow up in, that lees contact is really, really helpful kind of building texture and kind of tensile strength. So, you know, Chardonnay grown on Kimmeridgian soils already has a lot going for it. Pretty mineral, pretty tasty. But I just really think that these are perfect kind of for the spring kind of aperitif style. Really, really lovely. So they refer to kind of Vaudan, like what's that Vaudan kind of descriptor as part of the label. It refers to kind of this classic old windmill that's along the Serene River, which that river really kind of dissects the two different, or, you know, kind of divides the two different halves of kind of the Chablis zone, and this is kind of like kind of the illustration that they draw to their label, kind of this classic old water wheel that has been so important for their farm there. So yeah, Chablis, I love it. I hope you do too. Moving on to you know, Chateau de Vaux. So this is a really unique wine coming from the Moselle. The Moselle is a river that flows through kind of Alsace-Lorraine, goes into Luxembourg, and then kind of as it exits out Luxembourg, it's much more commonly known as the Mosel when it meets Germany. So as a wine river, it's truly one of the greats, and it starts in France. And not many people, I feel like, know that. So this is a 16th century chateau that has been making wines kind of ever since, but it really was revitalized in 1899 by a husband-wife team that saw kind of this old chateau that needed a little fixing up, and they've been making really, really exceptional wines ever since. Just to kind of like talk to you about how small this wine appellation is, I need my notes here. So they have about 5.5 hectares of vines, and there was only 39 hectares total for the whole appellation, which is tiny. So this is kind of like on the fringe, kind of wine, you know, kind of on the fringe of the wine map in a lot of ways. We've never really worked with wines from this appellation before, to the best of my memory, but let me tell you about it. So totally dry, but very aromatic. It is a blend of, let's take a look here, Auxerrois, Miller-Thurgau, Pinot Gris, and a little tiny bit of Gewürztraminer. So aromatic, but fresh, mineral at the same time. Perfect for spring. It's like spring in the bottle. It has like kind of like floral blossoms, and kind of like that white peach kind of blossom thing that so many wonderful wines from Alsace, and to a lesser extent Germany have, but it's just that really kind of lovely Eastern French thing. Yeah, lovely. All biodynamics since 2014, and very, very, very small production. So Chateau de Vaux, kind of new to town. Moving on to California, kind of the heartbeat of kind of young California, kind of new California winemaking, is a producer called Jolie Lade. Jolie Lade is a producer that we work with every year. They're very, very kind of limited for us to kind of get our hands on these. Something like 8 or 10 cases of the rosé come in, and we kind of scoop up as many as we can for a feature like this. It is about 60% Cabernet Franc and about 40% Gamay. Coming from El Dorado, El Dorado foothills, and also from Mendocino County. So another husband-wife team right here, Scott and Jenny Schultz. It's a really interesting story. It's like a Midwest guy who, like, from Chicago, who went out to Napa Valley and was working for Thomas Keller, working with fine wine and restaurants, and then worked with Arnaud Roberts, another amazing producer that we kind of adore from kind of New California. And now he's kind of like teaming up a little bit in terms of production in the same facility as Pax Mall, and Pax is kind of legendary in the world of kind of California winemaking for kind of just his ability to kind of work with Syrah and a couple other different grape varieties, but just really, really lovely kind of winemaking. So, but enough about those guys. Like, these guys are making really, really lovely rosé. So, April is when we start to drink rosé. Like, I like drinking rosé year round, but I know not everybody does. But a little chilly today, but it's gonna warm up. So like 60 degrees on Sunday, and I already know, like, the rosé cooler is just gonna start humming, very, very shortly here. So the reason that we pick certain rosés is because they just have really, really vibrant fruit. And this is absolutely one of those kind of rosés that we've fallen in love with year in and year out, and it's kind of gone before you know it. So California rosé. Moving on to a bit of a rarity for us. I think we've only ever featured one other Sancerre Rouge as part of this feature over the last few years, because there's not many out there. I think we end up tasting 3, 4 Sancerre Rouges throughout the year at most, more like 2 or 3. And this is a producer that is coming to us through Charles Neal. And Charles Neal, kind of the Bay Area importer who has just amazing estate bottled wines. This is one of his as well. We've really come to rely on the selections from Charles Neal in the same way that we look at maybe Kermit Lynch and Neil Rosenthal and some of those more established kind of American-based importers for French wine. But wow, I mean, really, really fun wine here. We had the opportunity to taste this quite recently, and it just has this like such lovely kind of harmony to it, and lovely balance to it. There's kind of a woodsy quality to the texture. There's kind of more tannins to it. It's very much French Pinot Noir, but it also has really generous fruit. It has kind of weight. It has a mid palate. It has a finish, which sometimes these Loire reds can be a little tight and kind of a little chiseled, and sometimes not having kind of a fuller kind of stature, which sometimes you want. It's kind of nice to have a little bit of body with your Pinot Noir. So, and this has it, which is really, really nice. So as things kind of heat up a little bit and get a little bit riper in France, I think we're all kind of benefiting from a little more texture out of the wines, which is kind of nice. So 10th generation farmer here. They farm 22 hectares, a third of that being Pinot Noir, the rest being Sauvignon Blanc, because they're much more famous for Sauvignon Blanc than they are for their Pinot Noir. But yeah, a really kind of fun change of pace from Sancerre, which I love doing. Okay, moving on to Elvio Tintero, one of Kermit Lynch's, speaking of Kermit, one of his kind of classic producers for Barbaresco. A family, the winemaker's name is Marco Tintero. He's the 3rd generation winemaker here. And I'm not going to lie, like, they're much more famous for their Moscato d'Asti. Like, that's kind of like their bread and butter. But they have 1 hectare of Nebbiolo across 2 vineyards in Barbaresco that make this really lovely and accessible, both price point wise, thank God, but also just like pull the cork and like pour it, and it's just ready to go. It has this really, really lovely kind of accessibility right out of the gate, which is nice, because some Barbarescos and Barolos, you just have to wait, and sometimes we just don't have the patience. So yes, 24 months in kind of larger format barrel, really, really classic Nebbiolo. I love Barbaresco. I'm so happy that we have it in the selection here, so I hope you enjoy it too. Finishing up with Morgan Twain Peterson, and his partner Chris. Like, these two guys make amazing wines, and they're really famous for Zinfandel. But when we tasted with Chris and his like awesome kind of roadshow of mostly Zinfandel, he kind of pulled out this token Syrah, and I was like, wow, this is so good. And it just kind of reminds me again of like what's going on in California right now is so exciting. You have guys who have access to some of the great old vineyards. I mean, this producer right here has some of the oldest vines anywhere in the state, and they own them. And you know, whatever they don't own, they kind of have these amazing kind of partners and contracts with. You know, Morgan's dad was Joel Peterson, kind of the founder and winemaker at Ravenswood forever. So, yeah, they have a pretty amazing Rolodex of kind of contacts that they get to draw fruit off of, you know, for some of the best vineyards in California. So, this is a blend of a few different sites, you know, in Santa Barbara and kind of further afield, but kind of mostly in Santa Barbara, kind of Ballard Canyon area, where some of the great Syrahs in California come from. Again, generous fruit, but you can tell these guys really know the archetypes of Syrah from the Northern Rhone. You know, I think you kind of close your eyes and the aromatics of this are so kind of spot on with kind of like that, you know, white and green pepper, that kind of savory quality to it. But then like comes the waves of like really, really generous fruit. It's awesome Syrah. So yes, this is your Cellar Series description down by the river. I'm kind of freezing my ass off down here, but the sun feels amazing, and I'm very, very kind of optimistic about how this month is going to go. You can pick this up starting tomorrow. Hope you enjoy it. Happy spring.